The Doppelbock I brewed in the last video has finished its primary fermentation. I can tell that because the bubbling in the airlock has slowed down significantly. A good rule of thumb to tell when primary fermentation is completed is when there is more than 30 seconds between bubbles. If you missed the first video when I brewed this beer, please go back and watch it. I'll put a link in the description. I'm going to rack the beer into this Adventures in Homebrewing 5-gallon ball lock corny keg. I will then do secondary fermentation in the keg, force carbonate the beer, chill it, and get it ready to serve. Before I can keg the beer, I need to clean and sanitize the keg and dispensing equipment. As you can see, this empty keg has sediment left over from the last batch. I will give it a quick rinse with some PBW to get the majority of the sediment rinsed out. You may have to use a carboy brush to get rid of some of this caked on sediment. I have an auto siphon with an output side ball lock fitting on it. This fills the keg back through the dispenser dip tube. I can then give it a soak with more PBW, making sure to tip it over to clean the top of the keg. I then hook the beer line up to the output ball lock fitting and the CO2 to the input ball lock fitting. Then I turn on the CO2 and use the gas to push the PBW through the beer line and tap. This will rinse and clean the dispensing equipment. Then I unhook the beer line and CO2 and take apart the tap. I soak the tap in PBW with the valve open. I will then do another soak with PBW. While the keg is soaking, I put the tap back together. Now is a good time to write the name of the beer on my handle. I will put a link to these tap handles in the description. I really like them. I push the PBW through the dispensing equipment once more, and then I check to make sure the keg is now clean. At this point, I will mix up some star sand. I put star sand into the keg with the auto siphon. This will sanitize the keg and the auto siphon. I will also soak the thief and hydrometer in the sanitizer. I run the star sand through the dispensing equipment, then I drain the keg, making sure all of the surfaces are sanitized. I will now check the specific gravity. I plunge the sanitized thief into the beer and let it fill. I then take it out, holding it over a bucket as it will drip. I then gently drop the thermometer into the thief. I then spin it to make sure the hydrometer is floating freely. To get an accurate reading, try to find the level of beer without the effect of surface tension. As you can see, the level is 2 lines into the red section. This means the gravity is 1.016. The initial gravity was 1.081. This gives an alcohol by volume percentage of 8.53%. I drain the thief back into the fermenter. I then fill the sanitized keg with beer with the auto siphon. Once this is done, I will do secondary fermentation in the keg by letting the keg sit sealed up for a few more days to a week. You want the temperature to be in the 50 to 60 degree range. A useful tool that I use is a min-max thermometer. It lets you know the temperature range of an area you're using for fermentation. It makes finding a good spot for fermenting easier. Once secondary fermentation is over, I hook up the CO2 and put the keg in the kegerator to chill. This beer needs CO2 volumes between 2.26 and 2.62. This means at 38 degrees, I need to set the CO2 pressure to 11 psi. You can find a CO2 volume calculator online. I used Brewer's Friend. I then let it sit and force carbonate. It'll take a few days to a week to carbonate. As you can see, after one day, I do a test pour that is not carbonated enough. The first little bit will be sanitizer and sediment. Throw that part out. Here's the beer after 3 days. And finally, after 2 weeks. So there you have it. We've managed to keg our Doppelbock. We did the secondary fermentation in the keg. We then chilled and force carbonated our bock, and now it's ready to drink. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, make sure and hit that thumbs up button and be sure to subscribe.